Yes, I'll be glad to grant you permission in a little bit.
Yay!
Okay,
Well, we're going
there
to try
you
and make
are,
this
ma'am.
interactive. So each of you will hopefully contribute to this workshop. We're going to make an interactive webinar workshop. So I hope you're ready. And if you're ready and you're set and you're willing to go, then if you look at the bottom of the chat box, right above the orange little sandbox, you'll see an emoticon. And so pick your emoticon of choice to indicate that you're ready to go. Okay, so I sent mine and hopefully I can see some of yours. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about mobile, how you can integrate mobile devices and technology to get your students to listen, speak, read, and write. I'm very honored to be here. I'm currently in Venezuela. I'm in Valencia, and I've traveled all over the world. I mean, different countries. Venezuela is actually the 28th country I've been to train teachers and their students. And online, of course, I train teachers from over 100 different countries. So I learn as much from you as you learn from me, I'm sure. But I've decided that I'm an adopted Venezuelan because I have definitely been in this country for now 3 months, and I plan on coming back if they will have me. And so when we're talking about mobile devices, the reason why we talk about mobile devices for learning is because in a lot of countries I've been to, I have found that many times students will have cell phones, maybe not smartphones, but they'll have cell phones. So there may not be computers in every classroom. There may not be smart boards. There may not be laptops, tablets. But I have found in every country, even in the poorest parts, there's at least one or two people or more now that have a mobile device. And because of that, that is one form of access that your students can have so they can practice speaking, reading, writing, listening, well, the four skills. So, and also, it's very motivating for them because all of us have this need to communicate and this need to share. And so many of us use different social networks to communicate and share. For example, and this need isn't something new. And I'll show you some of the more popular sites and apps that your language learners will use and that you may even have experience with. But the need to communicate began a long time ago when human beings came into existence. There was more than one human being. Because as soon as there was another human being, we wanted to communicate with them. And with communication, we want it to be understood. So the first form of communication before a language was invented, an alphabet was invented. Now we have many, many languages. 10,000 years ago, there were cave drawings and paintings. So some of the earliest ones, they were found in Spain. So if you take a look at this, you may be able to see what anybody, can you write in the text box what you believe this is about? What you think that this drawing from 10,000 years ago communicates? What if you walked by and you saw it, what would you believe they are communicating with you? Oh, maybe a hunting, yeah. A hunting scene, yes. The way that they're gathering food, exactly. They're saying, and food is very important. Um, Back then we had cave walls that we would communicate on, and now our walls are a little bit different. We have Facebook walls, Instagram, and they all look like our walls. We have our Twitter streams, we have our Snapchats, we have our Pinterest boards, and they all are walls with our different types of communication. So now we have this that I found on Facebook, and I thought it was pretty funny in relationship to the cave paintings. But one language a professional, it's very famous, said, I'm faced with either, it's 3 p.m., I'm faced with starving or going outside in the cold to get food. And another friend said, I suppose cavemen probably left similar messages on their walls. Um, and then Liz Victoria said the hunting scene, the I'm going out hunting or else we will starve. And then I like this comment from someone. What a great idea. Another caveman walked by and they put a little mark that said like. So think about the places that you've already communicated. You've communicated here on this webinar on WizIQ. That's one form of communication. And I've gotten to know you. I've said hi. You have told me that you're eating paella, that you're having coffee, and where you are in the world. And we're in different countries. We're in Argentina, we're in Venezuela, we're in Spain, we're even in Latvia. I mean, many, many different countries that are represented today. And because of this, we all are here not only to learn, but we're here to communicate with each other. And that's what makes the learning even more beautiful and more enriching. So this is an idea of what our walls look like today. And one thing that I want to encourage you is if you can get some of your students involved in these walls, if you can get them to participate and even go there, it can be very, very motivational for them. Very motivating for them. Your students often are on Instagram, they're on Facebook. And so I have found a lot of teachers who use Facebook groups, who use Instagram, who use Twitter, and even now I'm learning about more teachers who are using Snapchat to be able to interact with their students. And one of the teachers recently had a birthday. He's here in Venezuela, and his name is Podado. And, his name is Johannes, but his Instagram is here, and he uses it with his students. And so here he uses hashtags to get them together. And you can see what he tells his students on Instagram. He says, dear students, please say in one word, what is culture to you? And then they define it in one word. So there are many different ways that you can integrate these tools to encourage different types of, to get them to practice language at home, to practice English, especially if you're in an environment where your students are only speaking in their own native language. According to David Crystal, and I'm going to go ahead and put his website here, but it's davidcrystal.com, and I definitely recommend you go through his articles and you also go through his videos because David Crystal has a lot of insight into what, he's a linguist, he's a very famous linguist in the field of ELT. He even developed the language EFL and at the British Library a few years back, and he's written several books. He's constantly the plenary at many ELT sessions, and he's just amazing. But he started talking about, he's also 80 years old, and one of the leaders in how our language and how language learning takes place with text speak and with mobile devices, which I think is so amazing. I find so much insight from him. So David Crystal says that because of our mobile devices, language learners, or even our students in general, all of us, do more reading and writing. We're actually more literate. We practice reading and writing on a regular basis, giving feedback, translating, omitting, creating new vocabulary. We do this on a regular basis because our digital devices, first of all, we're on them all the time. We have another person to communicate with. We have that motivation, but also because we're constantly texting and consuming from others. And so I say in a lot of these activities we're about to embark on, get the interactive part going, is that I think that the next phase of this, the way to motivate your students to practice their speaking, their listening, their reading, and their writing is to come from a human aspect. Touch them at the center of that need to where they want to communicate. And once we get them, once we connect with that, then we can help them, motivate them to continue practicing English even when they're surrounded by Spanish or by French or by many of the languages that you have represented today. So in the chat box, or one of the things, I want you to write just one sentence to let us know, like a text. You're texting everybody in the group. You can use text speak, you can use emojis. Remember, the emojis are right above the orange. And just let us know how you answer a simple question. How are you today? Or what are you, how's your weekend? So here, you're going to share a little piece of yourself to us. And you're just answering a very simple question you see in textbooks. How are you today? Now, Andres apparently is not great. Eels is doing good. Mid Beyond Shelly is doing good. Miguel is being silly. Could be better, okay. Victoria could be better. Haiti says, is cool. He's doing very cool. And of course, I'm very happy because you all are joining me today and you're with me, sharing with me today. So now we got a little bit to know about you. And how many of you laughed? If you laughed, put a thumbs up sign. How many of you laughed today from seeing all of these? Oh, I'm sorry, Maria. And I know this because I saw you. How many of you laughed when you saw the little emojis? So you noticed that we learned from each other, we connected with each other in this webinar format, and we laughed and smiled while we were learning. We're communicating in English, we're communicating in pictorials, but we did share some kind of connection. And so already we're making that human connection. And we can do the same in our classes when we're using technology. So the next activity, and so the next activities relate to more ways that we can humanize our digital experience, because the great thing about this format is you can see me, so you feel connected to me. If I were to take off my video, and I'm going to, you probably can hear a little bit better. It's not the same. You can hear my voice, and that humanizes the experience. But when we're just using multimedia, when we're texting back and forth, it feels that connection. And so that's why cyberbullying and all of these things take place, because we don't realize there's another human being. And for our students, it's important that they realize that. So one way that I do this is by share with them this epic selfie adventure video. And of course, I'll share these links with you afterwards. But you can see part of it here. And first of all, I asked them to scan through their selfies. So think about the last selfie you took, okay? And then compare it to this guy's selfie. Now, this guy has different selfies from around the world. He's done a 3-year epic selfie adventure. Selfie was the word of the year in 2013. Does anyone know what the word of the year is for 2015? Maria, Eden said no. Anyone? Miguel, you got it. You get some virtual chocolate, Miguel. It's emoji. And already you used or practiced using. We've already practiced with the emojis here in Wiz IQ. So then I showed them this epic selfie adventure, and I asked them, okay, compare your selfies with this, and then the project to go on after they do this listening and reading is for them to go on their own epic selfie adventures. Now, I actually have a template that I have developed for this, and I will share with you the template. It's actually, you can find it, and I'm going to put it in the box. It's a PowerPoint one, but if you go to slideshare.net/Shelly you're going to find my, if you go to the presentations, then you're going to be able to find this epic selfie adventure. And all you can change the template. You don't have to have the same as me. It says like how to do it with a book, how to do it with your epic selfie adventure with a book, with your hero, have an UTSA, which is a group selfie, have another friend, of your favorite food, a foodie selfie. So there are different types of selfie adventures your students go on. And while I'm showing this example I really enjoy because this is Maria Bolsa, and Maria Bolsa has showed you what her students did. So we do have students who have done this already. Hopefully you can still hear me because it says my video went off. So selfies are one way that we represent ourselves, but another way is through avatars. And one avatar, this is one of my first avatars. With this avatar, it was a 3D avatar. It was an avatar that they used in Second Life. And with this particular avatar, I was also able to create a little pug. So Rosco the pug was part of my avatar. And her name was Rainy Zapato. And the reason her name was Rainy Zapato was because Second Life only allowed you to choose a first name. And the last name was already different. It was Zapato. So I went ahead and chose a different first name. And I thought that sounded Latina. So I would use that last name because it was the most Latina. But think of your first avatars. Avatars are any graphical representation of yourself. Think of the ones you use for Facebook, for Instagram. For me, I use many, many different ones. Rosco is usually in there because, and they can even if it's a cat, even if it's a cartoon character, that's you letting us know in the world who you are. Now, there are students to create their avatars, and once they create their avatars, then you can start talking to them about this is their representation of being a citizen in the digital world. And as a citizen in the digital world, when they have their avatar is responsible for everyone in that world. Whatever their avatar does impacts everybody. And a good example is selfie, an emoji. So selfie, somebody one day took a selfie, probably a teenager, someone that was 20, said selfie, probably posted it on Facebook, and then somebody else wrote, or somebody liked it, somebody else created a selfie and called it. Soon it became the word of the year. So you can see how powerful actions are on the digital world. Now, there are different types of avatars that are really great for different, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a Symbaloo that I've created, and it gives you a lot of these avatars. So you can go and you can see that. Can you hear me? You're not hearing? I'm sorry about that. Oh, okay, good. Sorry about that. And then after your students create their avatars, you can get them to think about, even they can create avatars for games. So game-based learning is really great for that. And if you want to learn more resources about game-based learning, you can actually, maybe Miguel will share his a link to maybe his resources, because I know he does a really great workshop and presentation on games. But your students, they can even create avatars for their different games they play. And when they do that, you can get them to reflect on the choices they made. You can have a class discussion, and you can show each other your avatars, and then they can talk about why they chose. Maybe did they choose different colored eyes? Did they make themselves taller? Did they make themselves have wings? And what were the reasons for these decisions? So our online behavior impacts our rituals, customs, learning, language, values, and communication. And so much that I told you that our language has evolved from this. It has changed. We have words such as amazeballs, selfie, and YOLO, which are all part of the dictionary. The Pope even takes selfies, so even the Pope is influenced by the behavior of us online. And the Oxford Junior Dictionary replaces natural words. In other words, they took out things like buttercup, acorn, and they have different types of words such as broadband and cut and paste instead. So we're going to do a little interactive one. So what I want you to do is I'm going to point at the text piece, and then I want you to write down if you know what it is. We're back. Woo-hoo. Sorry about that. So we have the first one, IDK. Anybody know what IDK means? Okay, so somebody said CU. CU actually, according to David Crystal, dates back to the 1800s, to the Victorian age. According to David Crystal, we used that way back when. Then, so this is CU later, actually comes in different letters and things like that back in the Victorian age. I don't know, very good, you got that right. By the way, very good. How about BRB? Anyone know what that is? And be right back, very good. LOL, laughing out loud. Now, sometimes these abbreviations change, this text change. So, for example, LOL, laugh out loud, used to be, what did it used to be before laugh out loud? Anybody have an idea? Yes, lots of love. We all know what this one is here. The thumb. Is that positive? Yeah, thumbs up, okay. So we can do that as a form of positive feedback. We can say something like, if we want to give feedback and we want to let them know, for example, yeah, we like this, good job, well done. Now here, the one with her hands crossed, do you think that that's a positive? Or if you get this text to you, is that positive or negative communication? Negative, exactly. So does anybody know what that one means? You can think of your favorite, soccer or football. And if you saw a referee do that, well, what that mean? Time out. In other words, it's like stop, halt, stop. Got it? So that's what it means. So it's actually negative. Okay, how about this person over here, this little boy right here? Different cultures mean different things. So in Japan, this actually, and that's where a lot of the emoji speak came from. Yeah, some people might interpret it as tired, but in Japan, this is a sign of honor. It's a sign, it's bowing. It's like, oh, I bow to you. And sometimes people use this now as a kind of a joke too. Yes, it could be waiting as well. So depending on the culture, the emoji could mean different things too. The other thing is we have here the last one, and that one would be in many cultures that actually means applause or yeah, well, that's kind of similar, but yeah, it definitely means applause. And so a lot of places that I get that you can find out more about what, in case you're not sure what this means, then there's a great encyclopedia of emojis. It's actually called Emojipedia. And so I'm going to go ahead and paste that in the chat box for you, and then you can find the different types of emojis that are out there. Now, with text-speak and emojis, students do learn the skills for developing language. They learn skills, literacy skills, but they also learn those skills needed when they're learning a language, any kind of language. So, for example, with text-speak and emoji, students add emotion to language. They're adding a visual. If they're not, with texting, we can't see each other face to face. So how do we humanize that? How do we bring ourselves into that and make it something where we have emotion? Well, that's how emoticons develop for this need for us humans to connect with one another. So it adds emotion to language. We know sometimes also intonation. That's how you can give intonation into text speak and to digital language, is that we can add the emojis. And we can add nonverbal communication that way as well. If you think about it, when we see the sign of thumbs up, then we're giving nonverbal communication to somebody else saying, oh, I really like that idea. That's a cool idea. That's a good suggestion. When we play with language, there's a lot of puns that are created. You see a lot of memes that are created as well. Students summarize, translate, and decode. One of the things David Crystal points out is that students actually don't misspell. They do this on purpose. They omit certain letters and certain words. One, because there's a limit to the amount of text and the amount of status of the letters or the characters in status updates. And so that's one reason they do it. But he says that if they omitted it, then they must know how to spell it, because you don't omit letters if you don't know first how to spell it. They create pictograms. They visualize the vocabulary they have learned. They translate and they decode. So if somebody else were to write, we're going to try this in a little bit. And they've developed an international language. So if you saw some of these text, these emoticons, emojis, or even abbreviations, in all 28 countries, people understand what those mean. There's a form of communication I can have with them digitally because of that. So let's look at some reading, writing, speaking, and the integration of the 4 skills. So one of the ways that we can get our students to practice reading and writing is to do things that they normally would do, or things that they're going to have to do with this digital, this new digital culture and world that they live in. And one is writing reviews. So that's a type of good writing skill to teach them. This is a type of very popular social network for reviews in America, and it's called Yelp. And the reason I use this example is to kind of show you what the basics of this social network is, and also because it's in English, okay? So, for example, here, this is a restaurant, Chaitos Fritanga, and Chaitos, 3 people have the review here, and they say the hours on the side, they say the business, they answer questions here, do they take reservations? And so this can be a reading exercise as well. So we look at the bottom. We're gonna use this as a reading exercise. Scan this, see if you can get some information, and I'm gonna ask you some questions. Do they deliver food? Can you order food to go here? Yes, they are a very Latino restaurant. They're supposed to be Argentinian cuisine. But not necessarily. Okay, yes, they do offer delivery. So they'll deliver at your address. Do they offer takeout? Oh, good one. So Horatio has asked us, do they serve morcilla? Okay, good. Do they take reservations? Exactly, no. Okay, so you have this reading and you can ask them questions for that. You can ask them, for example, some other information other than yes and no questions. What time do they close? What time do they close today? Okay, good. And are they expensive? Is it an expensive place to go? Okay, good. Miguel has even found out that it's not even open today. Are they a cheap place? Are they, are they cheap, expensive? What is the price range? It's cheap, exactly. Okay, so now we're going to look at the actual reviews. Oh, well, actually, we can't look at the reviews because I forgot to add that slide. I think maybe I have it in another slide. Hold on, let me check real quick. No, I don't. Okay, so normally I would follow this up by having them look at the slides. I don't know if you can see it. And to rate which one is the best one. So the first one says, moist and tender steaks. I like their big slabs to have their big slabs of queso frito. I'm going to take off the video. Zesty, repollo, and gallo pinto. Now, person B says, we've never had Nicaraguan food, and the flavors and portions here do not disappoint. And C says, it comes with 3 sides. I usually get gallo pinto and lettuce salad, not cabbage salad. So which one of these 3, A, B, or C, the first, second, or third, do you think is the most useful? What do you think is the most useful review and why? Okay, so Maria Albert, or Maria Irene, meow, she says that she likes A. Does anybody else have a different choice than A? And she says it's because it gives a good idea how it is. B, okay. The third one, it gives info about how the plate is composed. So one talks about the plate. A talks about the meat. Nobody gave me a reason for B, whether they like it or not. Okay, so for this, after we take a poll and after we figure out the reasons, and you're telling me why, you're also telling me what makes a good review. So from here, we could say, what makes a good review? And when we talk about that, then guess what the follow-up activity is? The follow-up activity is that they would actually create their own reviews in English for a Venezuelan restaurant that they enjoy or that they've been to. And I think that a lot of our students would be able to do this and have this kind of short writing practice and be able to give, they learn the criteria because you say it as a class on how to give a good review. Another one that I've also come up with is also writing with emojis. These are story prompts. So you can either choose one of these emoji prompts, okay? And I want you to type in the chat box a short story, very, very short, just a few sentences
your sentences or ideas should include mostly the emojis in whichever set you choose. So you have to include at least 3 of the emojis. So that's your writing practice. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and you're going to take one of these, and like I've done, I've taken this, and I've created a short little tiny story for it. So you're writing your emoji story. It only has to be a couple of sentences. And while you're writing it, I'm going to go ahead and read you my emoji story, which is during his morning walk, Rosco the Puck found a 4-leaf clover. It was at the end of a rainbow, which happened to be in the backyard. He looked desperately for his mommy, Shelly. When he found her, he gave her the clover for good luck during her workshop. She thanked him with a big smooch and treat. So you can see I added the smooch, I added look, I added a rainbow, a clover, and I added a dog. I haven't seen anybody else's story yet. Waiting patiently for a story. Me waiting patiently for your story. Who's brave enough to create their emoji story? I see where it says people are writing, so that's a good sign. Any set of emoticons you can use either, you get 5 of these choices over here. And in fact, what I can do is I can even add, so A, this is A, there's B, there's C, there's set B, or set E. Okay, alright. What are you doing? She says, let's see. I went to the Patemo, right? A nice baguito frito. You wanted me to practice my Spanish, didn't you? my pronunciation. I had to come back because, okay, this place is really, okay, when you do this, try not, I forgot to tell you, don't tell us which emojis, because we're going to try and guess which emojis you did, which emojis that you had. This is very sad. I had to come back because there is no place to stay over. That was very sad because the place is really nice. I didn't get sunburned because I took my big cat. And so, okay, you can see how she interpreted these visual emojis. We have another person who used set D, illustrated. I have been visiting an island. I wanted to eat, but there was nothing, only chocolate. I hate chocolate. I was angry, but I found a hat and put it on my face and went to sleep. Okay, so you use D as well. And notice how Il did something very different, which was great, that she didn't use them in order. She didn't feel like she had to use them in order, which is good because some of your students are going to do that too. So, okay, we have Miguel, and let's see if we can choose. So choose A, B, C, D, or E. See if which one you can guess Miguel used for his story. Last night I wanted to go out with my family to see the Christmas tree at Bolivar Square. It was a weird night. I was taking a shower and the water went off as usual. I was very disappointed. So which one do you think he did? Do you think he did A, B, C, D, or E? Well, I guess that one was pretty easy. Miguel, is that correct? Is it E? Yes, he gives you all an applause. Okay, so Victoria says it was in a sunny day, a gray cat found chocolate, and he didn't like it. So, does anybody, can anybody guess? Hers is A, B, C, D, or E. Oh, she mixed them all up. No, that's okay. That's okay. So you see how that was a fun practice of writing. I've shared this activity quite a few times. This is one of the newest activities that I developed. And, oh, we have another one to guess. So Horatio says, at 6 a.m. I went to the supermarket hoping to buy some food. At 10, I was terribly tired, so I returned home with my bag empty. Which one do you think it was? A, B, C, D, or E? I went to the supermarket. C, okay, well, it was C. He told us. He told us what it was. And then Andrea says, let's see, was there another one? I saw a cat's shadow, sounded the alarm, and stumbled with my toothbrush on the snowman. So which one would that be? Yes, I think that was obviously B. So you can make them a little bit harder. You can give them 3, and you can get them from Emojipedia. Emojipedia is a great place to get different emojis. You can make it 3 so it's a little bit harder for them to guess, or you can put one that's similar and all. Or you can even have them create their own emojis as well. So the reason why we do this is I've done this in lots of countries, and I want you to see what one teacher said about this activity. She wrote me immediately, and this is what she said. She said that, just to let you know, I did the emoji story the other day right after your workshop, and she put in capital letters, loved it. I don't think I've ever had a writing activity where every single student was engaged in doing what I asked them to do, but they all were for the emoji story. A highlight of the activity for me was that I have one of my students who almost never contributes to class discussions and hates reading aloud to the class. Choose to read his story. I was so proud of him. The kids came up with some creative, imaginative, and interesting stories and looked at the emojis in ways they never would have thought to. So for us, it may seem as silly or, but they're practicing reading, they're practicing writing, they're listening to the stories. You can have them read out loud and guess the set of emojis. But the students, for them, it's very meaningful, it's motivating, it engages them. They like writing that way. And if we can get them to write that way, then we can help them to develop their skills and things like that. And practice outside. They can share their stories. They can share poetry that way. They can do a mission or what homework at home, and that's one way to motivate them to do it. So how do we get them to speak and chat? Well, you can integrate classroom chat, like, for example, Johannes, he uses WhatsApp with his students, and you can see where he gets them feedback. They use emojis. Did you send emails? He gives a little angry face. But, it's a way to get them to turn in their work. It's a way for them to all talk to each other, and he's created a group that way. With WhatsApp, students are able to turn in, they're able to not only practice reading and writing, but they're also able to practice speaking and listening because they can turn in audio files as well. They can also speak with each other with audio. Victoria, if you have a link to that, the song, then just let us where we can maybe read a blog post or something about it. We'd love to learn from you. Another way you can get them is to have them have 2 characters chat with each other. You can take the role play, and then you can use something like Class Tools Net SMS generator, or you can use something like WhatsApp or something, and just have the students take a screenshot of the text they do back and forth. So here we have Star Wars the movie. Any fans coming excited to watch Star Wars? So one of the things you can do is you can have your students, they can have different characters, and the characters can go ahead and they can have a text conversation, a modern one. So it could be role plays that you see in the textbook, and then they can say what the real English is, because sometimes we have textbooks and it's not real English, or it's not something that they would normally say if they were going to use the language. Another way is if they're reading, if you have a graded reader or two characters within the book, then you can definitely have them do it with that. They can use comics. So comics are a great way to read and write. Here's what one of my students did, Raquel Jimenez. So she used one called Pixton, and I can show you a bunch of comic creators, which is the Symbaloo link. So if you go to Symbaloo, you can see my comics creators, you can see avatar creators, you can see lots and lots of things, resources for free. So I put in the chat box. So with this one, she used Pixton.com. You have to register. Do not register for a teacher account. Register for a regular account, and it's free. It's on a mobile device. You can get it for Android. You can get it for, not only can you get it for Android, but you can also get it as well for iOS devices, and it's free. The other one that I like, which is a really great one, is Friendstrip. So if you go to friendstrip.com, I'll put that in here as well. Then friendstrip.com is a great app. It's a mobile app for iOS, and it is for Windows, and it is for Android, and I believe Kindle, and it's really, really good. Oh, that's great, Victoria. And so what you can do is here, with Pride and Prejudice, they transformed this into, they took the two characters, and Mr. Darcy here, and Jane, and notice how with this, my student was even able to show the emotion. They're showing what's going on, the emotion. They even have a letter, but they also have a computer in there. And then they have the conversation within the context. So it's these kind of activities that really get your students to start creating. And one of the things I can do now is that I can actually go and I can have the students, I can use that for the next course, so that way they get really excited about comics. You can have them correct grammar. So what I want you to do is, this is actually from a certain activity. I'm going to go ahead and get that for you. But what you can do is you can correct Kanye West tweet here. How would you change this? So what I want you to do is to correct Kanye West tweet. So this is not correct. He tweeted, "If you want to have dinner with me, book a table." So correcting celebrity updates can be something that your students do that they find very fun. So I'm going to try and get this the link to the one that actually will do this for you. There's a free PDF that you can use. You have to sign up for their email, but it's free. Let's see how we would correct this. And there's one part that people usually argue with me about, so I will let you know that part. Let's see what you all decide. By the way, all of the presentation, if you want this presentation and last presentations, are in the one that I just shared, the slide share link. So I'm going to go ahead and share that slide share with you. Because we're about to wrap up the session soon. Let me get you the link to the slides. Of course, these will also be available, and the recording. They'll put it in the TESOL group. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and get for the PDF where you can get this. It's right there. So you can have this. And the reason we do that for the standifier, okay, so one area, so what would we correct first? How would we correct this? Okay, good. So Horatio put, if you want to have dinner with me, I'll book a table at Don Wallian's when I come back from NY. Okay, so he would we correct? How about the wanna though? Would we correct that too? And I will book a table at. So you change that, and then you put Don Julian instead of the spotted pig. Okay, yes, Heidi, I want to have dinner. If you want to have dinner with me, comma, I will book a table at you capitalize Don Wallian or the spotted pig. When I'm back in, would we say, okay, so yes, you can have those kind of discussions, and I like that Maria Alberts pointed that out, because there are two. So if you wanna, you might say during an informal discussion, that's okay. But how about the last one, NY? Is that okay or no? Exactly. So do we commonly say NY? And that's one of the things. So you may say in NYC, people even use that in conversation, but people don't use NY in conversation. So there are different, you can talk about the different circumstances for which this would be good or this would be right, or where it wouldn't be right. So for example, you might say wanna would be okay. And over here, NYC versus NY. And then the difference between them having it in spoken conversation or not. So that's why this part where it says the reason for edits is very good, because you can have these conversations and really look at the grammar. You can highlight grammar structures when they do use it. Like with this comment, another student, she highlighted over here, what's the red? The red indicates what tense. Oh, well, thank you, Evelyn, for dropping by. What tense is the red here? She's writing in what tense? Yes, exactly, the past tense, the past simple. So you can have your students highlight the forms as well. They can create videos. The way to get them to create a video, make sure that they're very short clips. And what I do is I have them use a storyboard. So I'll give you the link to the storyboard. We're going to go ahead and wrap up soon. The storyboard ensures that they write dialogue and scripts. And I think it's really important to get your students to brainstorm like this, because then correct their English while they're writing the script. If you don't, and this is a template on Google Docs that they can use, the student filled it out, but you can always print it out, or you can leave a blank copy and have your students fill it out together. They can work in small groups, and they can do it in their Google class. They can do it through Google. You can have them practice speaking and listening by Skyping someone, having a hangout with an expert. Anyone know who this guy is, who recently gave a webinar for one of the conventions? You can find a lot of guest speakers, actually, if you go to Education Skype. Now, they have even more offerings, because now they have where at Education Skype, if you go there, you'll be able to find Microsoft has teamed up with them and got them a lot more speakers, and so you can have classes and things like that. So there's definitely a bunch of ways that you can use Skype in the classroom to be able to really get your students connected. So I'm going to go ahead and give you that one as well, and you can find that link. Meaningful or pair or group work, when they do collaborative problem solving, have them do storyboards, have tasks and things like that. Here are a few places that you can go to actually find a web tool to do something. So this is a Google search engine for web tools. It was created by teachers, and so it is my favorite place to look for tools. It is free. It's called edshelf.com. It even has reviews. You don't have to register to be able to use the tool. If you want to save your favorite ones, then you would register. And if you want to learn a lot more activities, I recommend following Vinicius. He works with a lot of learners in Brazil, and that Learning is one of my favorite blogs for more. If you like the activities today, you're going to love the activities that Vinicius Lemos shares. So let's see. And I'm rushing towards right now because we are running out of time, and I want to make sure that you have time to spend with your family. And the main reason why we do all this, once again, to get to the student's level, it's good to integrate a lot of what they're using today for their usual communication. So the motivation there is to communicate. A lot of teachers complain. Students are on the phone. They're always texting. We can use that to really help them learn language, practice it, and integrate the different 4 skills. And the reason why we do this is because one day your students, and why the citizenship and the human aspect is your students all have an audience now. Every time they send a text message, every time that they are online, they have an audience. Every time they like something, they're spreading values, they're spreading information. They're changing the way we think, the way we learn, the way we communicate with each other, and what we feel are values in our society. A long time ago, it used to be that parents didn't give their students privacy, not even to a TV. You would do that as a family gathering. You would gather together and you would watch the TV, listen to the radio, and it was more of a family thing. And nowadays, I have to beg parents to not allow their children to use a mobile device without them around, because you never know what they're going to give access to. You don't know the values and how they're going to be influenced. And we are influenced. Our buying, our purchases, where we go eat, where we travel, what hotels we stay at, all of this is influenced by our digital behavior. If we cater to the spirit and the citizenship and the heart of the student, we not only help them develop a language so they can be the peacemakers of the world, and so that way they can do great things too. So this was a letter from a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and he says to his teacher, Dear Monsieur Germain, I let the commotion around these days subside a bit before speaking to you from the bottom of my heart. I've just been given far too great an honor, one I neither sought nor solicited. But when I heard the news, my first thought after my mother was you. Without you, without the affectionate hand you extended to the small poor child I was, none of this would have happened. I don't make too much of this sort of honor, but at least it gives me an opportunity to tell you what you have been and still are for me, and to assure you that your efforts to work and the generous heart you put into it still lives in one of your little schoolboys, who despite the years has never stopped being your grateful pupil. I embrace you with all my heart. I think that's important because we teach students who are the mediators. They know two different languages. They come from two different countries. They come from two different, they learned about two different cultures. Because every time you learn a different language, some of you know three. In Venezuela, a lot of people know French as well, so you learn about that culture. And because of that, then that means that you have the ability, your students have the ability to be diplomats. They have the ability to explain to others, to share in English, because English is an international language, what they want, what they expect and value in the world. So what we are doing is having questions. But while we're having questions, I'm going to go ahead and show a number. And that number that I show is, I don't know, wait, did they choose numbers already? I don't know what happened. How are you doing this number thing?
No, Shelly. No, they haven't chosen numbers yet. We're giving them the instructions in a couple minutes. But first, Miguel is opening the floor for a couple of questions if our participants wants to ask. So let's allow Miguel moderate that part. And after a brief Q&A session, yes, we'll be starting the raffle with the terms that we've already typed on whiteboard number 3.
So one of the questions was, what do you do? What happens if you don't have internet? Some of these activities you can do without the internet. For example, if you have a beam, a projector beam, you can do a lot of these activities. For example, you can show the emojis, or you can have students withdraw a lot of the emojis. You can print those out in little tiny strips, so you don't have a lot of, you don't have to waste a lot of ink and stuff as well. You can do it in black and white, the emojis, and each one of them pull them out, and then they can write their story. It's still learning about technology. It's still using digital language. Another is, at the beginning, you saw that picture where it says, share your bite-sized narrative. Well, with sharing your bite-sized narrative, that one you don't need an internet connection. Let's see if we have it here. What they do is they take out their device and they show they just show a story. So I put it here, sorry. They're just showing an image on their phone, and they're talking about that image. So they don't need to have the internet if they to do this activity. So a lot of these activities I created so you don't need to have the internet.
Yes, so thank you, Ines, for that question. Anybody else has another question for Shelly? Okay, I can see Maria typing. Okay.
Oh, that's a good suggestion. Maria Albert says that they can use their mega sometimes to do something like that. Something like the text messages too, and even like a WhatsApp group, that helps them with the mega situation as well. Because that's why I say some activities with WhatsApp, you can use that as a virtual learning environment, because some of the students, especially in countries like Venezuela, that's a good way for them to be able to have access. And a lot of them, you can ask them ahead of time, ask what kind of social network they already use. And then you can post work and things like that there so they can access that.
Okay, anybody else? I can see Victoria typing as well. We still have time for just a couple questions more and that's it. Okay, so we have Victoria there. So we have Victoria. She asked, do you think it is necessary to ask for parents' permission in the case
Yes.
you're working with teenagers?
Victoria, that's a very good question. It's always best to ask parents and involve them ahead of time. One way that you can do this is with, and Victoria, I know you know this because you were in my course, I believe. So it's through an acceptable use policy. I'm going to try and find, I have a bunch of acceptable use policies that I have actually put. So I'll give you a list of those so you can see what people have created. My students have created as well, as far as acceptable. But that's one way to get at the very beginning. You can use that as a template, adapt it the way you want, but it's a great way to have your students, the parents give permission. And I recommend definitely completely necessary if it's 13 and under, because a lot of platforms require that. But it's always good to have an acceptable use policy anyway when you're dealing with parents. So that way later on you don't have angry parents.
Thank you, Victoria, for that question. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we should go on to the raffle. Okay, so no more questions now. So Andres, let's go. Andres and Shelly, let's go on to the raffle now.
So Andres, I think you're taking care of that.
Thank you, Miguel. We're getting ready for the raffle, and this is what we are doing. The raffle is for a full convention fee, ladies and gentlemen, and the idea would be for the participant who wins to be exempt from paying for that fee so that they can afford the other related expenses such as travel, accommodation, etc. So that's a way to help and save. The terms are, I know there are people who are joining us from other countries and we really appreciate that. I don't know who typed in. I would like the terms back up. And it is only for Venezuela residents. It could be no matter if you are a citizen or if you are a foreigner living in Venezuela. Both ELT career students or in-service teachers can participate at this moment. So the ones typing the numbers, don't start yet, please, will, the ones typing the numbers will be Venezuela residents. And Shelly has a number, and Shelly, via voice and typing in the public chat box, will call the winner. So once I say go, not yet, please. Once I say go, don't start typing in the numbers. Once you are queued, type a number from 1 to 50. Shelly has written the winning number, and she'll call the winner, not via private chat, but via public chat. Everybody will be able to read it, so don't worry about that. Okay, public chat. And also by voice, because she is still online. The winner will send their contact data. Please, the contact data will be your name, your Venezuelan ID number, your phone number, and your email address to info@ventesol.org so that we can give you further instructions on how to redeem the prize. Don't type the numbers yet. Are you guys ready? The ones typing at this moment are Venezuela residents. So If we're ready, set, go. Now start typing in numbers.
And it's whoever's going to be the closest to my number, which I've already written. They've already seen inside the TESOL box. So.
Okay. So tell us which one typed in the closest to your number.
This is my number. I wrote it yesterday when Andres told me.
Aha. So
This is
in paper ballot,
presentation
on a paper ballot, live,
by the
honest, and
number
transparent, and with witnesses. So who's the one who got the closest?
Maria Alvarez, I think.
Maria Irene. Okay, so Maria Irene, congratulations. You are the winner. Excellent.
So hopefully we have
Maria
turned.
Irene. Okay, Maria Irene won't have any accommodation. Maria Irene won't have any accommodation
Upside
problems
down.
because she lives in Valencia, where the National Convention will be held. Well, it is perfect for Maria Irene. I mean, a win-win situation. Okay. Well, now I would like everybody to please show both Shelly and Miguel some love for her delivery and his moderation. Well, the only last message, okay, please always keep in touch with us and check out our social media so that you can always be aware of and informed of our different activities. For example, you can regularly go to our Facebook group. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter, and this is our handle. It is always very important because we are always sending and issuing and sharing relevant information, not only in our activities, but also for teacher development. Thank you, Miguel, for typing in the winner. Now, there are regional events coming near you at different times of the year because we have our regional specialist tour, which is titled Getting on the Bandwagon. We've already had 2 stops, one in Caracas, and that's the link for the following stops, and the one that we just had yesterday in Lecheria, state of Anzoátegui. Please use that link that I've just shared so that you can get information on the next stops and try to join us in the nearest in the city nearest to you. Finally, and this is what Irene has made herself winner of. This is information on our upcoming national convention in May 2016. So please go to that link frequently from January, February on so that you can get further information and you can also register. Now there's early bird registration, and looking forward to meeting you at the TESOL event nearest to you. Please show some love for our moderator and of course for our keynote speaker this morning in Venezuela, Shelly Sanchez Terrell. Thank you all for participating and being such a good
Thank
sport.
you, Andres and Miguel, for helping moderate this.
Okay, thank you, Miguel, for helping me from San Felipe.
Movember here.
Okay. Well, that is all for us today. We thank you for taking this time with us and looking forward for meeting you at another TESOL live event soon. Bye-bye. Any final words from you, Miguel? From you, Shelly?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and just follow us on Twitter, Instagram, we're everywhere, so you can keep updated on the upcoming events. There are plenty of them.